morning, everybody. I am coming to you from Melbourne this week. So, yeah, it's a slightly different setting, but it felt quite relevant to have this beautiful sunshine little picture behind me, because we have entered the Leo sign in astrology and coming up to the Lion's Gate in a couple of days now. So you're all going to be feeling that at the moment, and I felt it was relevant to speak about before we get into the crystalline reading, see what cards and what energies we're dealing with this week. It's been, I think for a lot of people who've been aware of what's happening on a more cosmic level with the blood lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse and this Lion's Gate portal that we've got moving through. Every year this happens, but this year in particular feels really potent and powerful. So everyone I'm speaking to, I'm hearing how a lot of people are having different things coming up for reflection. And that reflection stuff that happens is also something that happens a lot with retrograde planets. So we've got Mercury and Mars in retrograde. So it's really interesting times, and I would love to hear how you're all going with that. And I definitely for myself have noticed that things have been coming up to be aware of, and little triggers, little things that I've been able to trace back to the source. And a lot of the source or the triggers we experience are sourced in something that could be so simple and so tiny that we experienced when we were little children, you know? So it's all that wounding stuff coming up just to be released, because we're walking through this portal in a couple of days. And the Lion's Gate, the 8-8, for me, I get transported to, you remember that movie, The Never-Ending Story, where they walk through this chasm with these two giant sort of phoenixes either side, and they kind of look like big lions, and they have laser beams shooting through. So it's kind of like that. I get that feeling like when we move through these different times, it's like there's stuff that we just can't take with us. We've got to leave stuff behind. So anything that's not really holding you to your utmost awesomeness in the world, you know, be aware of it, love it, see it for what it is, and let that go, so we can move forward through this Lion's Gate and to really take with us all that's empowered, all that's, you know, the best way you can show up in the world. So yeah, I felt to mention that. Hey Xavier, good to see you. So we'll see what crystal energies are going to be with us this week. And a reminder also that if any of you are feeling to have a personal card reading, I'd love to do that with you, and I would do that in more depth. So it's a half-hour recording that you receive personally about what's happening for you on the mental, emotional, on the physical, on the more spiritual, and seeing how things line up. So that's something that's really good to look into around these big change periods as well. So please be in touch if you would like one of those readings, and I can be doing that for people anywhere, because I just send you a voice recording and it's all pretty simple and easy. So please be in touch if you would like that. I'm just charging $30 for the half-hour reading. And then from that, you can quite often, there is pathways of growth through that can be supported by taking liquid crystals. So often there's a trinity that might come up that's going to be really helpful to bring the mental and emotional into balance. So we can really move through with this momentum that's happening now out there and all around us, move through with consciousness and knowing what we are ready to shift and what we're wanting to align to. So please be in touch if you'd like some more information. Okay, so let's see what jumps through for today for us collectively as we move through this week. Oh, that's really amazing. Okay, great. Okay, so the first card, we haven't had this one before. This is Peach Calcite. And peach calcite is a gateway stone. This is one of the stones that actually is in the 11th portal, so the 1111 gate on the Tree of Life. It's sometimes referred to as Darth on the Tree of Life, if you're familiar with it. And it sort of sounds like death, but it's just a transition between stages. So this is all about harmonization. When we're moving through change, it can feel a bit like up and down and all over the place. And it's about how we harmonize things so we don't have such mega peaks and then such massive valleys, and we can just really find our groove back as we're transitioning through all of this. So calcite is also a really beautiful soft stone that comes in a few different colors. You can get blues and greens and beautiful clear calcite, yellows and oranges. So the peach really kind of balances the more yellow or orange tones of the solar plexus area, which is how we digest things, yellow calcites are very good for stomach upsets or just digestion issues. And then the clear calcite is very much how we digest in our mind. So it's really like, how can we bring harmonization between our physical bodies and our mind? And of course, this very much connects in with the energies of Mars and Mercury, which are retrograde now. So as we're moving through, as we're being potentially triggered or having things come up all around us, and as we're stepping up into these new phases, moving through this Lion's Gate this week, this portal, there's going to be a lot of stuff between body and mind and emotions all coming up to be reflected upon, and this is bringing that harmonizing of it all. So as we are riding on the curtails of the eclipse energies and preparing to move through the Lion's Gate, it's now time to really think about how we can digest everything that's happened. And it's not just digest what's happened in the last week, but really what's happened for your life. You know, this is a time to really reflect and look and how you can bring a harmonized space between how you digest things in the world and how you perceive things in your reality. So that's a really beautiful way to start the week. And again, we're being invited to work with the breath with Botswana Agate. So this is a stone that has come up many times if you look back in previous weeks. And Botswana Agate speaks of the importance of using breath to really integrate, because oxygen is what transports so much around our body and brings vital life force. So, Kalia, at a cafe without headphones. Okay, you can watch me doing all sorts of movements and listen to it later. So I was saying the breath is all about how we receive in and how we exhale, the in and the out and the constant flow. And it's really interesting to reflect on how you breathe. I mean, for me, it's been a big journey being asthmatic as a child. And then, you know, you generally grow out of these things, but it's flared up a little bit for me recently. And I'm like, wow, okay, what part of my breath is not harmonized? Where is there not balance there? And, you know, sometimes it's harder to get air in. Other times it's harder to get air out. And then there's also the pause in between the inhale and the exhale. And a lot of us, I can speak for myself when I'm in that challenge breath space, is I hold my breath, because it's almost like I better hold on in case there's no breath to come or no life force to come. So it's really, when we can get that regulation, we can trust that there is always another breath. There is always another exhale. There is always going to be life and there's always going to be death. And that's just a continuum that continues to happen. But bringing balance with that is what's going to help the process. So these two actually do really tie in quite beautifully together, bringing awareness to how we harmonize our breath. And the last card of the week, which is a really interesting one we haven't had before, is Petrified Wood. So petrified wood is actually a crystallized tree. So it's quite amazing if you see them. We have lots of these in Australia, but you can see the rings of a tree that have turned like through eons of time, through having water and heat and just time and all the minerals that are in there, they've crystallized. And if you think about a tree, it holds so many layers and layers and layers, like rings of memory. And it's kind of like us, like we're like little onions. We've got so many little rings and layers and levels. And this is all about past life embrace. So it's really how we connect with so many, all the different layers of ourselves, and really know that, I mean, essentially, time is an illusion. So all there is right now, but in the now is all we ever have been and ever will be. Like our child self and our wise self is available to us now. Our future galactic activated selves and our past, you know, who knows what we were doing in our past lives, all of that is available now. So at this time and this point, as we're really moving through, we are calling on all these parts of self and seeing which are empowered parts and which are parts that need healing, and which are the parts that we can reflect on and go, you know, I don't need to carry that story anymore. A lot of us carry collective stories, you know, collective in our cultures, collective on our planet, and that will be experienced within our lives personally, but also, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I've had a past life doing this and a past life doing that. And essentially, it's really a collective organism. You know, we're a collective organism and we've all experienced everything on some level. So, and there are certain things that will come up if you are doing any regression therapies that may come up as a past life thing. Could be a future life thing. So this is the time to really bring it all in and harmonize all levels of self through the layers of the onion or the rings of a tree. So yeah, this is a really, it's a really beautiful trinity actually, and it goes something like this. If I was to sing these energies together, when I harmonize all aspects of myself and trust in the breath that continually flows through, I'm able to access all parts of self from past, present, and future. So that is the trinity of the day. And since you're on here, Kalia, I'm going to pull you a card. And I think Xavier, if you're there still. Oh, I've got a jumping card. I've got two jumping cards. Oh gosh. Okay, so Kalia, I was speaking about you first, so we'll talk about both of these. So I've got Celestial and Lepidolite. So Celestial is another gateway crystal that hangs out with this, and they're both very angelic in nature. And when I think of Celestial quartz, if you see the way they grow, they have lots of tiny little terminations, and often a double terminated. They actually look like, and I often call them circuit breakers. So when we've got huge amounts of energy coming in, whether it's through an electrical circuit, like surges and pulses of energy, sometimes a fuse can be blown. So you need like a circuit breaker in order to organize and harmonize all the different codes, keys and codes and energy and light that's coming through, so it can be delivered in a way that is going to be useful, resourceful, and not blow the fuse. So these crystals, celestial crystals, are really amazing when we are working with receiving a lot of information, and we are all receiving so much information right now, like the alignments and what's happening on a planetary level and the amount of codes and light that is being pummeled into the earth right now. We're all these little electrical beings receiving this. And for some of us, it's blowing our circuits. For others, we have inbuilt circuit breakers that we can, I mean, that's kind of what the job of your soul star is to be able to regulate the amount of energy that comes in so you don't frazzle out. But if you are feeling a little frazzled with everything that's going on, get yourself an celestial quartz, because this really helps to disperse the energies, the keys and codes that are coming from source to make them useful for you and your life. And Lepidolite. So Lepidolite is a beautiful card of conscious feeling, and it's it's interesting that this came forward. I think this one's for you as well, Kalia, or maybe it's just for all of you, because could be for me, because I was dreaming about the animal that was associated with this card last night. I was dreaming I often have underwater dreams, but I was swimming with manta rays, and the animal associated with lepidolite is the manta ray. And it was a cross between a whale shark and a manta ray, because it had a massive mouth and it was just gliding along, and just all this water was moving through its mouth. But the beautiful thing about watching a manta ray swim is just the grace in which it just glides through the water. It's like a sea eagle. And this is all about teaching us how just to be fully fluid in our emotional bodies and be really present and conscious of what's happening within the body, what's happening with the emotions, and how we can keep them flowing and moving. Lepidolite has a high lithium content in it, and lithium is something that's used in antidepressive medication. So it's one of those things that when we're not really acknowledging how we feel, we can get really depressed, and it makes sense that, even medical practitioners will give lithium in order to, lift us from that depressive space. It'd be far better just to be getting in touch with your emotional body. So they're the two that just came through now for you, Kalia, and I'm going to get one for you, Xavier, in case you're still on there. And for all of you who are watching at a later time, as I said, please be in touch. I'm always happy to pull cards for people online during this 11/11 time, but if you would like them a more personal reading, I'm really happy to do that for you as well. Okay, so Xavier, this is apophyllite, astral travel. So this is the stone of really working with, like, in the dream state. So I've just been speaking about dreams, but it's also working in the unconscious realm. So in the dream realms, we see a lot that's kind of hidden below the surface. But if we can be conscious and awake in that space, so much is available to us. And apophyllite, the way it grows as little pyramids, these beautiful crystalline pyramids that are almost clearer than clear quartz, and there's a real magical element to them. The animal associated with apophyllite is the white horse. So I often think about Pegasus as well, or the winged horse. So it definitely has that element of travel and knowing that you're far more beyond what this physical body is, and places we can go and things we can do in dream state, lucid dream state is quite remarkable. So often we are doing a lot without even realizing in our dreams. So if you can be conscious of your dreams, there's definitely messages for you coming up to the surface. So that's all for today. I'm going to take a picture of this spread and pop it on the link below so you can check it out and see the symbols and the colors that have come through, because the colors also tell us a lot of what's going on. So yeah, really lovely to connect with you all. Have an amazing journey through the Lion's Gate on Wednesday. If you can, take the time to make a little time for yourself to be in meditation, to be in prayer, to be in conscious presence with yourself, where you can really think about what you're wanting to release and what you're wanting to cultivate. This is the Leonian energy of the heart, of the sun, of light, in the southern hemisphere here, we're moving into a lighter stage and indeed a lighter time on earth. So much love to you all. Mwah.